Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads. Today we've got for you a preview of what seems to be a major year in Star Wars. It's the preview of 2024's new releases for Star Wars, and this is all the stuff we know about so far. Before we get to the video, make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe to the channel. We will have tons of content out in 2024 covering almost all of this stuff. So if you're interested in seeing all the latest on 2024 Star Wars releases, you can check out our channel. Make sure you comment below. Let us know what you are most anticipating for 2024. What are the things you think are going to be the best releases of the year? We'll start with the one that everybody is looking forward to the most, the TV series. As with 2023, none of these are officially confirmed. Let's get into the one that we think is going to come out first here, and that is The Acolyte. The Acolyte being a show that takes place at the end of the High Republic era, merging the High Republic and the time period right before the Phantom Menace. Sanak, what excites you most about The Acolyte?
I think the unknown of it, right? Like there are some hints that it's going to be really Wushu inspired. There's things just like the iconography of High Republic initiative so far with the robes and everything. But what does it really mean? Is it like a Sith assassin? Is it truly an acolyte that's being separated out, like how an Asajj Ventress is? I really want to see how these High Republic books that we've really been enjoying on the channel shapes and affects characters, and the characters that then affect the next generation of the Jedi. Having a Vernestra Rowe be around in this time period, I'm very curious to see what her role will be in the story. We'll see like a Yoda or someone else, and politics and other more Coruscant based material plays a role in here, or if it's just going to be like a lot of outer rim and mid rim storytelling. I can't wait, and I hope it is just as cool and just as well thought out as something like Andor.
Absolutely. I think the creativity behind this one too is something that gets me really, really excited. We know it comes from creators who have invested a lot into Star Wars Legends, and a lot of a creative team that is not as well versed in a lot of Star Wars as maybe some of the other creative teams. And so there should be a pretty unique take on this series. The period right before the Phantom Menace is another one of my favorites. Also, being a massive fan of the Darth Plagueis book, I mean, we've tracked the eras that these are supposed to be around, and I don't know how much of a role Plagueis would play in this, but just seeing what types of Sith are around, the Sith acolytes, the rule of two, how is it played out, who are the Sith masters at this time, will younger Plagueis play a role in this, will Darth Tenebris, a lot of the stuff that shapes the Sith lore of the prequels should be kind of built up in this show, and I think that is something that it really intrigues me. And to echo again what you were saying about the High Republic as well, being so invested in it at this point, I just can't wait to see how all of that kind of falls apart and it ties directly into the downfall of the Jedi that we see probably begin with this show, or at least, by the end of however many seasons this show goes. Let's move on to the second series we know for sure will come out in 2024. It is rumored now to be towards the end of 2024, even though it was supposed to be a 2023 show, and that is the Skeleton Crew show that will supposedly tie in to The Mandalorian and Ahsoka in this New Republic Thrawn era. Sanak, what excites you most about Skeleton Crew here in 24?
I'm very curious how like the pirate vein and elements of Mandalorian season 3 and hopefully Ahsoka season 1 really shapes up this story. It is apparently the show with the biggest budget for aliens and new worlds and just whatever zany adventures this very kid slash teenage cast goes on. Is it something that's going to have more than one season? Who is Jude Law playing, right? Like, he is the only adult that we really know of. I mean, you don't bring an actor of that caliber without having a very cool role to play. So again, another unknown of it, but at least
Yeah.
here I know that it's going to have some role in the Mandoverse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the show that is the most unknown out of all of them to me, mainly just because of style. Like, what is the show? What's the tone? Is it when they announced, Stranger Things kind of in Star Wars? That's intriguing to me. But if it's not as horror edgy as Stranger Things, then it might come across as a little too kid friendly, especially in a Thrawn era. So, what's the tone they're capturing? What are they going for? How are they going to make us fall in love with new characters in this timeline that we've explored very heavily? Why are they so important that we have to tell this story amidst the massive consequences of a show like Ahsoka? Let's talk about the final live action show that might be coming out in 24. This was the one that was pretty much confirmed to come out this coming year, but with the strikes, possibly could be pushed back. We haven't heard too much about Andor season 2, but Andor season 2, Andor in general being a really tight ship, this should come out this year, but you never know. Sonic, what is most intriguing to you about Andor season 2, and do you actually think it comes out in 2024?
My thinking is no. I think Acolyte is kind of primed to be that prestige Star Wars show. The story for Andor, with its importance to the movie, with its importance to the events of the original trilogy, will probably be delayed into 2025 and become the flagship there. I think what I'm most curious about, though, is the timeline of events. Andor Season 1 is focused on a singular year of Cassian's development, who he becomes. I think I'd be very interested to see what a year by year block of episodes deals with. Is it just going to be events that are more symbolic to the story of Andor and how he is characterized by the end of the show and the start of the film? Do we get to see a Riz Ahmed come back to play a Bodhi Rook in like a final arc? More than anything else, will Mon Mothma have a little bit more of a direct role in the affairs? I know the Gorman massacre is a huge part of her storyline, but are we going to then see some Rebels crossovers? Are we going to see some other notable characters in other mediums come into play here, even if it is just like a supporting character of that show? I think the year block will be very crucial to how the show functions. I don't think it'll be the same feel. To me, that kind of is exciting, but I can see where people want that deliberate pacing to continue, and it just might not be there.
Yeah, I think seeing this show in general is going to be super intriguing because of its structure. It should be very different than season 1. It'll be intriguing to see how much they focus on Andor versus all the other characters they've set up as kind of co-leads or secondary leads. It'll be interesting to see how they decide to do the release strategy for this show. Like we're saying, doesn't seem like it quite fits in 2024's schedule, but could they pull like a Netflix and do batches of drops? Like if each story is kind of its own thing, could they drop a couple arc like a two arcs across October, November, and then save the rest for early 2025? Let's get into Star Wars animation here. The Bad Batch season 3 is heavily rumored to come out this coming year, and it would make a lot of sense considering season 2 was kind of supposed to come out at the end of 2022 and got delayed to 2023. So season 3's been in the works for quite a while. There's also been rumors of Tales of the Jedi season 2 coming out of the Bad Batch season 3 and Tales of the Jedi season 2. Which one are you most intrigued for?
Definitely Bad Batch Season 3 since it is the final season. And I don't know if there is that much story left with just them running around and doing stuff like they did for Sid. I feel like this will be very, very serialized. Everything that a character will do will affect someone else, even if they're at a totally different location, as compared to a little bit more of the jumpier episodes that we've had, a little bit more of the sillier ones in Season 2 and Season 1. So that gets me excited. I just hope that there's a lot of payoff here because there's been some great things done with the clones. But now you kind of have to break her heart and then set us up for the future as well.
Hope you're right. I really do, because I think the Bad Batch has probably admittedly correctly focused on the batch more than we had originally hoped it would after that first episode of season 1. In general, Star Wars animation's never going to have a lull in its release strategy. They're especially with this Clone Wars animation, they perfected it. People love it. They're going to keep that style going. I hope Bad Batch season 3 is a setup point, a spin-off point for like a clone style show that just is about all the clones, maybe led by Rex and Hunter and Omega. And yeah, I think we're going to wrap up the Crosshair plot point. I think we're going to transition the Tantus stuff into why it's so important. I am probably more excited for Bad Batch Season 3, even though Tales of the Jedi has limitless possibilities. Depends who are the subjects of Tales of the Jedi, but if they decide to go all in on Phantom Menace Jedi, because next year's the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, you could do different Jedi Council members from the Phantom Menace, Deba Balaba, Mace Windu, Yaddle, Oppo Rancisis, Yarael Poof, those types of characters. I'd love to learn more about all of them. So that does it for Star Wars TV, or at least the stuff that is supposed to be coming out next year. Let's move into video games, and actually we could have a category for this year because there are supposedly 2 coming out. Star Wars Outlaws, which was originally scheduled to be, I believe, a Q2 release and has since been pushed back to Q4, but that is a Ubisoft open world game. And then we have Hunters. Talked about Hunters every year in our preview guides for the next year. Hunters is a mobile game that is predominantly multiplayer, I believe non-canon. It has been pushed back every year for 3 years. We're not going to talk about Hunters. We've talked about it in the past. What makes you intrigued for Outlaws? And do you think it will be a 2024 Star Wars video game?
I think it will be a 2024 Star Wars video game. I think it'll be like a December 2024 Star Wars video game. I am really excited for the underground element being really fleshed out here. I know it's not necessarily too original. We've seen so much of that in books and TV shows. And is this story just going to be a fun open world experience, or is it going to have like some relevant change to the underworld that is going to be formed and more affected? I'm just also excited for customization and for being able to fly ships. I also do really like the look of the commando droid companion. Other than that, it's a game that I feel is more experiential than it is like narrative importance.
Yeah, I'm so glad it's not a Dark Times game. We've had way too many stories in that period, even though it's a good period to flesh out and discover. Outlaws to me is a mixed bag. I'm excited for it, like you said. I think there's a lot of stuff from a customization and open world standpoint that we've never experienced with Star Wars that makes me most excited for it. Looking at the game itself, looking at the trailer, the story looks very cookie cutter Star Wars underworld story. It also, just as an open world game, looks very, very paint by numbers. It looks very simple. As somebody who's played tons of Assassin's Creed and tons of Ubisoft open world games, I love the formula, but they're always kind of forgettable. So I'm expecting that from Outlaws. However, if they really dive into the Star Wars-ness of this, I think this could be a good step. Like Jedi Fallen Order was a little safer story, strong characters, but overall safer story. Maybe by the time, if Outlaws is a huge success, we get the second Outlaws game, they could really go for something. And if we transition between the years between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi for the sequel and go New Republic, that could be something that's really actually expansionary for the lore. So let's move on to the books. Books are a major part of our channel, and there are a lot to talk about next year, and there's been a lot of announcements of new stuff, and I'm sure this won't be the end of announcements for new stuff, but right now I will list off all the books we have here. January 30th, we have The High Republic Escape from Valo by Daniel Jose Older and Alyssa Wong. This is a junior novel tying into The High Republic Phase 3. The next High Republic Phase 3 young adult novel is The High Republic Defy the Storm by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. On March 19th, Star Wars Insider is releasing the collection of The High Republic Tales of Enlightenment. These are Phase 2 short stories from Star Wars Insider magazine by George Mann. Then April 9th, The Living Force by John Jackson Miller is coming out. It's an adult novel, the first one we will be getting in 2024. Then on June 11th, we have The High Republic Temptation of the Force, an adult novel by Tessa Gratton. It is our next follow-up to The Eye of Darkness. July 23rd, The High Republic, Beware the Nameless, a junior novel by Zoraida Cordova. August 2nd, Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss by Stephen Barnes, the adult novel that will be tackling Mace Windu between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And then September 3rd, The High Republic, Tears of the Nameless, a YA novel by George Mann. As I mentioned earlier, those are all the things we know as of now, but that's a pretty good amount of books we have coming out there. Out of all these books, which of the books are you most excited for?
Yeah, the book that I'm most excited for is The Living Force. The Living Force being connected to a lot of the development in the High Republic, being our first for real dive into the Jedi Masters of the Phantom Menace era. As a whole, I'm very curious to see how the Jedi Masters, now given the opportunity to see some of the highs of the High Republic, how will they like be able to take that with them? Is that something that they reject as in different parts as a group? How is that going to have an effect on their treatment of characters like Obi-Wan and Anakin as well? And just who are like the villains of this group of the story who are supposedly keeping them stuck at one of these old High Republic outposts. I can't ask for a better author to handle this too, being that it is John Jackson Miller. I really did like his writing on Kenobi. I just hope that with more Jedi, he can have a little bit more fun, just like he does, especially in the more Kenobi Force-centered story parts.
I'm having a hard time picking the one I'm most excited for. I think The Living Force is probably the one, just because next year being the year of the Phantom Menace, it's so exciting to really explore that era. It's something we haven't done in canon really at all. And also Qui-Gon Jinn, anything with Qui-Gon is nice to get. But I also want to throw out there Mace Windu and the Glass Abyss. Really looking forward to that because it's going to be a book that I hope defines Mace Windu for canon. Shatterpoint, one of my favorite Star Wars books of all time. It doesn't have to be the same, and it won't be the same, but hopefully it does similar things for the character in terms of servicing him in a way that you grow to understand and appreciate his perspective. And of course, I mean, the High Republic, it's hard to get much more excited for the High Republic than we are. But of course, the follow up to the Eye of Darkness has me very excited with Temptation of the Force. That should be great. Let's move into Essential Legends collection now. If you are a Legends fan, there's a lot to look forward to in 2024. When you start out 2024, you will be getting on January 23rd the audiobooks Unabridged for the Courtship of Princess Leia and Yoda Dark Rendezvous. Both of those books were released in Essential Legends in 2023. Our first official Essential Legends collection releases of 2024, though, will be Knight Errant on February 6th, as well as Order 66, a Republic Commando novel. That is the fourth book in the Republic Commando series, and X-Wing Wraith Squadron, which is the fifth book in the X-Wing series, but the first of the Wraith Squadron. And we will also be getting an unabridged audiobook on February 6th, same day. March 12th, we will be getting the unabridged audiobook for iJedi, which should pair nicely with the unabridged audiobooks we've already gotten for Corran Horn. And then June 4th, we have Imperial Commando 501st. It's technically the fifth book in the Republic Commando series. It was the first book in a series that was canceled. The Lando Calrissian Adventures, which is a surprising one because that's three books that will be compiled in one, and X-Wing Iron Fist with an X-Wing Iron Fist unabridged audiobook. Let's move on to comics here. It's going to be an interesting year for comics in 2024 because we have a lot of main lines wrapping up, and we don't necessarily know what's going to replace them and what eras they are going to be replaced in. Starting with the big four, Darth Vader 2020, we have number 42 through 45 coming out this year across January through March. Star Wars 42 through 45, the 2020 line will be coming out in the same time. Bounty Hunters, only one more issue coming out in January, issue number 42. Dr. Aphra, one more issue, issue number 40. The Mandalorian Season 2 adaptation, issue number 8. Obi-Wan Kenobi show adaptation, issues 4 through 6. The High Republic Phase 3, issues 3 through 10 are the only ones currently announced. High Republic Adventures, same thing, only issue 2 through 6 currently announced. The Thrawn Alliances adaptation for the comic book format, issue 1 through 4 coming out this year. The new Mace Windu miniseries, issues 1 through 4 this year. On February 21st, we have the Visions Takashi Ozaki #1 one-shot, as well as March 20th, we're getting High Republic Adventures one-shot Crash Landing. The High Republic Adventures Saber for Hire, April 10th, and then May 4th being Free Comic Book Day. We are getting Star Wars / Darth Vader #1, as well as Young Jedi Adventures Free Comic Book Day issue. So out of all that stuff coming out next year, Sanak, what is most exciting to you? With all these series ending, though, there's got to be more stuff going to be announced shortly as we get into 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key point here. There's a lot of stuff here that is just Q1 essentially of Star Wars comics. So what two could be like a period off and just be a little bit more High Republic era focused, and that makes sense, I'm sure. More so than just these individual issues or series, I'm more interested in how they're kind of wrapping up this Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi era. Bounty Hunters and Aphra are both closing. I think it's a good place to close into where we've been so far. So I'm very curious, like, what will be the more concrete steps to making these events that are happening that shape, parts of the dialogue in that film really come to life. Other than that, I think I'm really, really interested in the High Republic Phase 3. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the issue number for me. I'm just interested because that first issue is very explosive. The things that happened there made me go like, oh, wow, like this is like a change to the status quo. I do hope that Saber for Hire does end up becoming a story that has more to it, like maybe leads into the novels, like what young adult novel or an adult novel, so that we can have Ty York be a little bit more than just a comic exclusive character again. I'm excited for the comics. I think that it's going to be a doubly long list by the end of the year.
Yeah, this is definitely just the early stuff. And I agree. I do think Star Wars and Vader will most likely wrap up this year, especially with the ending of Bounty Hunters and Aphra. So I'm interested to see what their plan is. Probably looking at issue 50-ish that they would get there by the end of the year. Out of the rest of it, I'm going to agree with you again. It's the High Republic stuff. It's been solid the whole time. I'm looking forward to continuing that. And with phase three, a lot more spread out, with book drops and stuff a lot more spread out, the comics will be a nice way to continue to fill in the gaps in between. The Mace Windu miniseries, I'm cautiously optimistic for. The last one was really bad. Let's get into the last section we have here, and that is the section for collected editions. This is the one that's a little more near and dear to my heart as a collector. We start out January 16th for the first one of the year, the second volume of Hyperspace Stories titled Scum and Villainy. Then on January 30th, we have Legends Epic Collection, The Menace Revealed Volume 4. This should be the last one in the Menace Revealed series because it takes us up to Attack of the Clones. On March 5th, we get the Star Wars Volume 7 Dark Droids from the 2020 line, as well as the Dark Droids D-Squad miniseries, issues 1 through 4. On March 26th, we get the Dark Droids main series 1 through 5 collection. And then sometime in March, we don't know the date yet, we will be getting the Legends Epic Collection Rebellion Volume 6. On April 9th, we have Darth Vader Volume 8, Dark Droids, and The Mandalorian Season 2, Part 2 trade paperback. April 16th, we have Bounty Hunters Volume 7. This will be the last paperback for Bounty Hunters. Volume 7 will be collecting 35 through 42, so it'll be a lot bigger paperback than Marvel is usually used to printing for these series. April 23rd, we are finally getting the Star Wars by Kieran Gillen and Greg Pak omnibus. This will pair with the Star Wars by Jason Aaron omnibus. We're also getting Dr. Aphra, Volume 7, Dark Droids. This will be the last volume of Dr. Aphra. April 30th, we're getting the trade paperback of the High Republic Shadows of Starlight. May 7th, we're finally getting American releases for some manga from Japan, The Mandalorian Manga Volume 2 and Visions, the manga anthology, which is just manga adaptations of some episodes from Star Wars Visions Season 1. May 14th, we're getting the Legends Rebellion Omnibus Volume 2. In May, we are also getting the Legends Epic Collection for the original Marvel years. This should be the last original Marvel years Epic Collection, and it's the Droids and Ewoks. June 4th, we get Hyperspace Stories Volume 3, Light and Shadows. June 11th, is the next omnibus, the New Republic Omnibus Volume 2, and we're also getting the trade paperback for the Obi-Wan Kenobi adaptation. June 18th, we're getting the High Republic Phase 3 Volume 1, the first trade paperback for the High Republic Phase 3. It'll collect issues 1 through 4. July 23rd, we will be getting Hyperspace Stories Qui-Gon Jinn. This is an original graphic novel. This stuff has not been released yet. Legends Tales of the Jedi Omnibus will also be coming out. It collects everything that Marvel has been putting in the Tales of the Jedi Epic Collection, so all of the Dawn of the Jedi stuff, and every issue of Tales of the Jedi, including the Golden Age of the Sith. And then we get the first Epic Collection. A lot of people have been wanting this for a long time. The first Epic Collection for the canon Marvel comics. They're titling it the Modern Marvel Era. And then August 13th, we're getting the next volume of The Edge of Balance, Volume 3. And then in November, they have announced that a High Republic Phase 2 Quest of the Jedi Omnibus will be coming out. That's everything coming out in 2024. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Hopefully some of this stuff got you really excited for next year in Star Wars. Let us know in the comments below what you're most anticipating in each of these categories. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button. It really helps us out. Help us get this video to 35 likes. That would be great. Subscribe to the channel for more Star Wars content. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you guys all in the new year.